Bad, good, better, best. A guide to effective speech evaluation techniques. As our president Gretchen mentioned, we have a speech evaluation contest coming up in a couple of weeks, and this morning I want to inspire you all to seize the opportunity that speech evaluation presents to motivate and help further along the development of your fellow Toastmasters. I'd like to describe some speech evaluation techniques from not so good all the way up to highly effective, in my opinion. So let's jump right in. The goal of speech evaluation is to motivate and inspire your fellow speaker and bolster his or her confidence. So here's an example of a speech evaluation that I think is not very good. John Doe comes up and says, "Rob, you spoke and you were really nervous, you spoke too loud, and you should do better." If I'm the speaker and I hear that, I'm probably not going to feel very motivated. I'm probably not going to feel very inspired. I might think instead, boy, I worked so hard. I spent so many days preparing this speech. I practiced a dozen times in the mirror, and that's all I get. There's nothing redeeming about this speech. Maybe I shouldn't speak at all. Who wants to speak? I did all of that work, and I have to still start over from ground zero. So as an evaluator, that's not the sort of impression that you want to leave with your speaker. How can we make that a little bit better? Well, one thing we can do is focus on what the speaker did well. Focus on the positives of their speech. So here's a speech evaluation that might sound a little bit better. John Doe comes up and says, "Rob, you spoke well and you projected loudly. Your body language could be a little bit better, and you should fix that. And you did meet the goals of your particular speech project." So if I'm a speaker and I hear that, I think, well, that's not so bad. That's given me something to work with. I have been recognized for projecting well. I've been told I speak well. And yeah, maybe I can work on my body language a little bit. But I did also meet my speech project goals. I think we can still get a little bit better. For one, the use of the word should is often a trigger for speakers. When they hear should, I don't know about you all, but for me, I think, hey, don't should on me. Don't tell me what to do. You don't know who I am. I'm not going to listen to you. It comes off not as a helpful suggestion, but instead as a command. And it often is interpreted as disrespectful to you as a speaker and your intentions, and it's harder for you to assimilate that information. So I would use something more like "I would," or "I would consider," or "I might suggest" as a way to preface possible areas of improvement or feedback. So let's try that same speech one more time. "Rob, you spoke very well. Your vocabulary was rich and you used the word of the day. I would consider not using the lectern, stepping out and using your body language more broadly, engaging with your audience to make your speech more effective. One thing I want to commend you on is not using notes. One of the guidelines of your speech project was to use minimal notes, and you did that. Now we're getting somewhere." This sort of speech is more powerful because it is more specific and it is still positive while at the same time softening the suggestions for your speaker. If somebody hears that, they don't think, "Boy, I'm terrible. There's no way that I could ever be a good speaker." Instead, they think, oh, that's an idea. I might try that going forward. It's presented as an opportunity and as just one of many possible ways that you could move forward with your next speaking engagement. Also, you are still continuing to use that criticism sandwich, that positive, negative, positive framework where you offer areas of strength, an area where you could use strengthening, and then another area of strength. So that would be a very effective speech evaluation. But I think that we can make it just a little bit more effective. How can we do that? Well, it might go something like this. "Rob, you spoke very well. your voice was projected well so that even at the back of the room, the audience could hear you, and that kept us engaged. It let us know that you were concerned about each of us in the room. You used the word of the day, which shows adaptability and flexibility. You weren't just reciting a memorized and rote speech that you had prepared beforehand, but instead you were able to be dynamic. And by doing that, it demonstrates mastery of your content and lets us know that you really understand the material. That builds trust and keeps us more engaged. In terms of areas of improvement, I would consider stepping out from behind the lectern and engaging, walking over to individual members of the audience, establishing eye contact, letting them know individually that they are important, that you're making an important point. And then gesture broadly to underscore the important and salient points of your speech. By doing that, it helps us provide a visual cue that bolsters the key points that you're emphasizing. We know what to pay attention for when you gesture broadly and what is not quite as important. And then also by building relationships with each member of the audience, it helps us know that you care about us, that you're interested in each of us receiving the message that you're offering us today. I think one other thing that you should feel really proud of is not using notes. It's really difficult to not use notes. It's very challenging to speak in front of us, and the fact that you didn't shows preparation. It shows that you respect us as an audience, that you care enough to put in the work. You care enough to put in the effort so that you can present for us in the most effective manner possible. That also builds trust. That helps make us as audience members more receptive to your message. Now, this is an evaluation that I think is far more effective than the very first one that we started with. Not only is it primarily positive, it uses that criticism sandwich method, but it softens the feedback, the suggestion and area for improvement. But it's also highly constructive, and it is highly specific. I say not just you spoke well, or you use the word of the day, but why is it effective that you use the word of the day? What does that accomplish that you use the word of the day, besides just checking off a box in the imaginary speech evaluation guidelines? What makes it effective to use body language? Why should you use that? By utilizing these why statements, you help the speaker understand not just the mechanics of what they're doing effectively, but the inner logic of it, so that they can translate that over to different speeches. You're saying not just, hey, use a specific turn of phrase, or not just gesture in a particular way, but instead you're describing why gesturing in that manner or speaking in that manner is effective, so that they can use that to their advantage for whatever speech they're doing. It may not always make sense to use the term supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, but it does make sense to be flexible and adaptable and dynamic and demonstrate your mastery of your material. And you can do that in a number of ways, such as using the word of the day. So ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, if you are to be an effective speech evaluator, I want you to remember these key points. Be positive, be constructive in your feedback, be specific, and focus on the why. Explain the suggestions that you're making and the things that you point out that you think the speaker did well, not just as something that they did well, but why they did it well, and therefore help the speaker to translate that over into their future speeches. When we're speech evaluators, we have 120 seconds to 180 seconds, about 2 to 3 minutes, to motivate and inspire our speakers. This is a tremendous opportunity for us as Toastmasters and as colleagues for each other to motivate us, to build our confidence, to help us become stronger as individuals and as a club. And I hope that all of these suggestions are effective in helping you develop your repertoire as effective speech evaluators. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Rob.